Good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a beautiful day. I posted on LinkedIn the org chart for CMS, Centers of Medicare and Medicaid in HHS, right? And I posted their org chart. This org chart is 79 pages. I feel like there's close to 1,000 names in there and hundreds of office names. When I look at an org chart like that, I find it is awesome for business development and capture activities, but business development in particular. If I want to sell the CMS, like somebody who's in our community here, if I want to sell the CMS, I now have an org chart that tells me the different offices. Where would my thing, workforce development or cybersecurity or digital transformation, where would that fall? And in this org chart, because they did such a good job laying out all their offices, you can drive straight down and go, oh, here's the office that does strategic policy. I can help with that. I'd like to call. And so then there's 2 or 3 people in that office, the leaders in that office. So go take a look at that. If you haven't done it, if you're interested in HHS and CMS in particular, you'll find it. Otherwise, just keep tracking on an organization's org charts. They're great ways to learn about an agency as you're diving in and doing your research. Let's get started talking about the 5 types of federal buyers every small business must find. And this will be an interesting twist for some of you showing up. Some of you may have seen me talk about this before. And today I'm going to go deep dive into these 5 small business types of people that are out there. But one of the things that I just wanted to start with is this understanding of waterfall and agile. I like this example because I'm a software developer, a project manager in my career. And if you haven't done this before, basically waterfall project management means I look at everything. I try to see everything and plan out every single detail. And I'm saying this needs to be done before this, and this has to be done here. And if anything gets missed, everything gets moved around. In a nutshell, agile software development or agile project management is about taking things and breaking it down into their smallest possible components and saying, I'm going to get this done. Here's a backlog of all these things that we could get done, but I'm pulling this out, and this one I will plan in great detail and get it done in 2 weeks, right? And so there's this idea of when you do this, you can try little things faster, and you can find out. I wrote fail fast here on my slide, but what fail fast really means is find out quickly whether it works or whether it does not work, and most importantly, does not work for you, right? If it fails, that just means you need to do the work better. But if it does not work for you, that's what I mean by failing fast, is you can quickly decide whether something that you were developing isn't working. As it relates to people, especially sales, when we're talking about sales, you want to fail fast to find out that somebody you're talking to is not the right person to be talking to for whatever reason, right? No judgment on them. Just finding out quickly whether people are ones that you want to maintain relationships with and should be in your CRM or whatever way you track your relationships with people, or whether it's people you should just kind of abandon and say, that's not a fit for me. It's a fit for somebody else, just not me. I'll give you a quick example here. I wrote my wedding disappointment. If you don't know this, my wife's name is Nancy. My sister, who supports the GovCon Chamber since 2018 and has supported me forever, she was pointing out to me one day when I was complaining, but we were planning our wedding, and I have a large family. I have 9 brothers and sisters. So all the in-laws that come with that, 20 nephews and nieces, and 2 weren't coming to the wedding. And I was fixated on them and not coming. And my sister Cecilia is in the training all the time, right? She was like, focusing on the 2 people who aren't coming, and you're ignoring the rest of us who are coming, are excited about coming to your wedding. And I got married in DC, and my family's in California. So they were all coming across. And it was a really epiphany for me, a mind shift, if you will, to this idea that I've got to focus on the ones who show up in the right relationships, right? Not that I'm discounting the 2 who didn't come to the wedding, but for relationships and sales, we want that same thing. Make sure we're focusing on the right people, and we're not putting energy into the people who are not good for our business. So today I'm going to talk about those people, right? The 5 types of people you're going to run into and that I want you to find, including the ones who are not right for your business. And I'll explain that. Then I'm going to cover down on the relationship bell curve. I'll talk about where these people fit into your success pattern. And then I wanted to end up with, I teach the 7-step process. I want to show you how these people fit in to the 7-step sales process, or the process for revenue success. So that's what we're going to cover. We got a lot to do. If it's your first time, I move at a fire hose pace, so hang on. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonnell. I'm the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I want to welcome you to my federal sales training where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years as a small business owner, and since 2018, I've been teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we're going to have predictable, repeatable results. That's what I want for you. I spent a long time in government, but even longer in sales. And because today I'm talking about people, people are vital to sales. And I was just pointing out my experience in here, right? I did door-to-door sales, vacuum cleaner sales. When I talk about these 5 people, I encountered every one of them in there. I sold internet. I love listening to these influencers who talk about they've been on the web forever. I sold the internet back in the 80s, like in the 89, not to completely date myself, right? But I sold internet and web access at county fairs, software and hardware sales. And then as I moved into the government, right, I was doing software and hardware sales, solution selling, where you really have to go out there and help the customer work through solution selling. That really is this idea of a 12 to 24 month sales cycle. It's not just the fact that government buys long, but when you're selling solutions, everybody needs to get on that same page. And I've sold, as you can see here, in the private and public sector, even nonprofit, state and local, but really commercial and federal has been my main experience. And I've sold $250,000 things, right? Vacuum cleaners, $250 things, and $250 million things. I don't count contracted vehicles as sales because that really is just responding. Sales is when you're working with the customer to get them to buy your product or service. Okay, so let's dive into the 5 types of people you must meet. So as we move forward, the first group of people you want to meet, these are the innovators. And I want to use this example from the iPhone, right? There's innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Those are the 5 people. And I really want those 5 categories to be in your mind. As we move forward, think about those 5 categories. So innovators, if you think about the iPhone, I'm going to use the iPhone example. If you think about the iPhone and you think about innovators, these people are camping outside of Apple when they announce a new version. It's coming tomorrow morning, and they put up their tents and they wait for it. They always buy that newest model. The early adopters, they also always buy the newest model. But actually, my wife, Nancy, she falls into the early adopters, right? She's always buying the newest model, but she waits to the morning. She doesn't drink Starbucks, but she waits till the morning. You know, I want to get a good night's sleep, then I'll go. I know they're going to have a phone. I'll get it. Right? So she's in that phase. Keep that in mind. I'll tell you where I'm at a little later. Early majority, this is a big group of people, and they always want the newest model, but they're not going to rush out and just spend the money, right? And so these people on the iPhone will wait until their current phone breaks and they need a new phone, or the contract that they have with AT&T or whoever expires, and they got to get a new contract with them. Then they'll sit there and get a new phone at that time. That's a little different than the late majority. They never want the new phone. They don't really care. They don't have a passion either way around it. They just never need the newest phone. They don't even care. They're barely aware that it exists. But when they get their next contract, that's when they're going to be looking at the newest phone, if it's going to be wrapped in, because somebody at AT&T is going to say, hey, you know, iPhone 552 is out. Do you want that? Or we got this older model you can have. And so the late majority is really behind the curve on getting an iPhone. Laggards, that's where I'm at, never want the newest model. They'll do anything to avoid the newest model. I actually had a phone broke twice over a long period of time. Twice it broke, and I was able to go back and get, if you know your iPhones, the iPhone 5S, until one day they just stopped making it and stopped selling it. Then I had to get a new phone, right? And so I picked up, to tell you how far away it was, I think I picked up an iPhone 12, right? So I skipped all those versions in between. Keep these people in mind as we move forward, because you're going to encounter them all the time. By the way, I just want to say, when you think about Apple, to Apple, innovators and early adopters are gold, right? They're just pure gold. That's who buys their products faithfully. Not that there's anything wrong with the rest of those people, but those are the gold. And what I wrote here is, if you want gold, you need to touch dirt. And I equate that to a gold mine, right? You can't go into a gold mine and just has gold. It has gold and dirt. Dirt is a vital part of our planet, but it's not gold. We want the gold. So let's move the dirt out of the way. Let's ignore the dirt and get to the gold. Let me use another example with the same 5 type of people, but let me use it with government contracting, right? And so in government contracting, we have small business professionals, and that's the one I really want to touch on. You could use this with contract officers, program office, teaming partners, whatever, but I'm using small business specialists up here as my example, because I think most of us have called small business specialists at one time or another. And I really want you to understand that they too fall into these 5 types of people. Some small business professionals are innovators. The minute you call them, you just feel like you're calling your favorite aunt or something, or uncle. They're just happy to talk with you, happy to help you in any way. Right there on the phone, they're like, well, let me look up the name. Oh, you know what? I'll shoot a quick email and send that information, right? Very happy to help. By the way, gold, right? And then early adopters. This is the next group of small business specialists at agencies. When you call them, they're happy to talk. They're nice. And they're willing to give you guidance on how you can navigate the agency. But they tend to make you wait a little bit or do some things that need to be done and then move you forward, right? So I've described people I work with all the time. This is actually where I prefer to find them, is they give me guidance before they then help me do anything. These people are awesome because they actually listen a lot more to what you're doing. The innovators, although they sound like they're really great, they're not giving me a lot of feedback. They just give me names and information and pass me. But as I'm calling small business specialists, I'm not always going to find those 2 that we describe as gold. The early majority and a bigger portion, right? These people are willing to talk. They'll take my phone call. They'll set up a meeting. Maybe if I call the Oswego office, I can schedule a meeting with one of these type of people. But what they want to see is past performance in the federal space. This is where we begin to see people say, well, you need to do this, and watch Sam for opportunities. They begin to be less helpful. In their minds, they're thinking they're helpful, but they're not overly helpful here. But they are inside. And if you have past performances in the federal space, they begin to go, well, okay, if you've done something there, maybe we'll push you forward. If you've got past performance within their own agency, maybe they can help you navigate. But most importantly, they're willing to talk, right? So you can keep moving forward. But as you move on, many of us have run into these last 2 groups. The late majority. These are the folks who take the call and then they're like, I wish I could help. I can't help you. And they really just won't help you. My favorite line is when somebody asks me, like my wife will say, hey, did you get a chance to take the garbage out? I had a chance. I did not take that chance. It's like, I'll do it now or something. But it's the same thing here. Don't tell me you can't help me. You can help me. I can tell you exactly how you can help me. You just won't. And so these ones are really tough. They'll be friendly on the call, but they won't go anywhere. They won't do anything. They won't even really be willing to talk. They're just having a conversation. And laggards, they just act like you're doing something wrong. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this. And I actually don't need you to put it in the chat. I'd rather have you tell me who you've called that are innovators and early adopters. But laggards are those ones where you call. And if I've got people from the government on, I'm telling you, these people exist for sure in the small business profession, where you call them and they make you feel bad for calling. How'd you get my number? Who cares? You're the small business specialist for the agency. Like, you're the point of contact. It's on the website. It's on these things. But when I call you, you make me feel bad, right? You make me feel less than. No one does that to a large. They do it to smalls. But what I want you to understand is there's 5 types of people. No matter where who you're calling, what type of people you're calling, they're going to fall into these categories. And the reason it's really important for me is that when you go to a gold mine and you dig, you don't fixate and complain about the dirt. You just keep digging through the dirt. There's gold in there and you just keep digging. But sometimes when we do sales, when we're reaching out to small business professionals, teammates, whatever, we fixate on the dirt. We fixate on the late majority and laggards and these people who are not helpful for whatever reason. And we don't keep digging for the gold. And that's what I want you to keep in mind as we move forward. So let me talk about this thing here. I call it the relationship bell curve, the adoption bell curve. It actually is the technology adoption life cycle, or technology life cycle is where I got it from. In fact, I can tell you the book you want to be tracking on, if you like book recommendations, this is called Crossing the Chasm. I first read it, I think I read it in 91, right before I went into the Army, because I was working in tech and all that. And then I definitely started reading it in 2004 over and over again. And certain books like that, I read a lot. But this bell curve puts those 5 people I just mentioned in perspective. And this is what I want you to understand. There's the innovators, right? The people who are excited that you're calling, like, oh, great, how can I help you? Think about teammates, right? You're calling a teammate. And you reach out to them and you say, hey, I want to see if there's synergy. They're like, absolutely, let's jump on the phone. Let's see. They're just willing to talk and willing to figure out where there could be a win-win. 2.5% of the people you call are going to be those folks. And so let's use 100 people just for the moment. 2.5% of those people are going to be innovators, excited for you. Early adopters, though, same kind of thing. They're still gold. 13.5% are going to be that. So out of 100 people, 13.5 people, let's call it 13, 14 people. Or in this case, I really like putting them together and say there's 16 people who are gold. These are the ones who are going to talk to you. I'll come back to the chasm in a second, but these are the bulk of what you're looking for. 16 people out of 100 are going to be excited to talk to you and willing to help you. Whether it's teammates, small business professionals, contracting officers, program officers, it doesn't matter what it is. Whether it's a bunch of people like me. I've called people who were like me when I was in your position, and I literally felt like I was calling somebody who was too good. Like they thought they were too good. And nowadays, I feel like there's a lot of us who will take the call and talk to you at any point. Well, that's what you want to look for, are those type of people at your buyers, at your agencies that are going to do that. So as you move forward, the next group is this early majority. The early majority is 34%. So 34 people out of 100, they're going to talk to you, but they're the ones who want to see past performance. And what this really means is that these people here in the early majority, they're looking to see that you have a relationship with early adopters and innovators. So remember, I said early majority, they're looking for past performance. That's really helpful to them. They want to see that somebody else has paid you before they take a chance. And so this is one of the reasons, by the way, when I say 3 streams of making money, sub under a small, prime, and sub under a large, for smalls, larges tend to be laggards, the agencies tend to be in the middle, and small businesses are the early adopters and innovators. These people will take a chance on working with you as a teammate. So as you move forward, your early majority is 34%. And then you see on the other side, you got late majority and laggards. These late majority and laggards make up 50%. Basically, 50% of the people you call are not going to want to talk to you. One way or another, it doesn't matter what it is, they're not going to talk to you. I used, as you move forward, what I said was people tend to fixate on that. Well, that's an awful lot of people to be talking to. So if all you do is call 50 people, not 100 people, then maybe you're only going to get the late majority and laggard, and you give up, right? You're like, oh, I'm just getting too much dirt, too much friction, too much pain. You've got to keep digging forward. And I'm going to put this in perspective on the next slide as it relates to the 7-step process. But what I want to convince you of is that there are people who would love to talk with you. And if you're not talking to them right now, you're not calling enough people. You're not moving enough dirt out of the way so you can get to those golden people, those people who are excited that you're calling, or at least willing to talk with you and help you and guide you through their agency. Like I said, with small businesses, we have a directory. It's 1,000 plus small business professionals in the federal market. And I guarantee you, I can go through there and call a lot of them, and unfortunately find that some are on the right side of the bell curve. That's okay. That's their job. I don't have to dwell on it. I just mark them off as don't call back and move forward on this. The one thing I would like to point out is this crossing the chasm. This comes from the technology adoption curve. And so when you think about technology adoption, think about electric cars. Electric cars are pretty known now, but when this book was written about crossing the chasm, they were fairly new. They were just coming out. People were just thinking about it. Tesla didn't exist. And the question would be posed to people, when are you going to buy an electric car, right? And so if the answer is when hell freezes over, well, that person's a laggard, right? And you can work your math through here. Oh my God, the first chance I get, you're innovator and you're rich, right? Early adopters, it's like as soon as I can line up the financing or something, as soon as they have a payment plan, you're an early adopter. For the rest of us, early majority, we're like, we're absolutely there as soon as the technology is proven, as soon as electric cars are proven safe, they can drive long distances because, that's important, and that they're a little bit more affordable, right? So this early majority, well, that is this chasm. And I want you to think that same thing as it relates to your business. And I'm going to switch away from people for 1 second and just use past performance. The more past performance you have, the larger the contract size you can go after, right? And this is why I tell people to have a lot of past performance that's related. If you bring it back to the 5 types of people, these innovators and early adopters, this 16%, are the ones who are working with you. You need to find a lot of companies that love what you sell. I was talking to a company yesterday, and they're trying to break out of one particular agency into a lot more agencies. And this is what I'm trying to teach them. Don't sell to everybody. I don't care if your product is great for everybody. Not everybody will believe it. Not everybody will accept it. Not everybody will want it, right? That's okay. If your product is great for everybody, find 100 everybody's, put their name, number, and email down and call them and reach out to the 16% who will actually buy from you. I did training earlier this month about how 8As can win direct awards for the end of FY 2023. And what I was saying was stay away from the agencies that don't do direct awards. Why would you waste any energy if you're an 8A knocking on doors of agencies that do not do much direct awards at the end of the year? You should shift your energy into like the Army, for example, which does $2 billion in direct awards at the end of the fiscal year in August and September. That's where I would be putting my energy. That is the innovator and early adopter as it relates to folks that are out there. So this is really important. Remember these 5 types of people. And as you start calling people, understand quickly whether somebody is an innovator, early adopter, or these other ones, right? So let me take one last stab at talking to you about these 5 people and put it into context of the 7-step process. If you're not familiar with the process that I teach about success in the government market, really it comes down to 7 steps, right? Research an agency and understand it better than anybody. So lock on to your target agency. The second thing is build a list of 200 people. You want to have a target list, a market campaign, whatever you want to call it, but a target list of 200 people, names, numbers, and emails. These are new people, people you haven't called before, so that you can start reaching out. And this is where the 5 types of people come in. When you call them and you start doing outreach, you start doing your initial phone calls, emails, the very first meeting, you're going to determine whether that person is on the right or the left side of the bell curve and where on the left side of the bell curve they align. If they're on the right, who cares? But if they're on the left, you want to begin to go, hey, are they early majority? Are they innovators? So understanding that. And the reason I say that is because only the gold, only the innovators and early adopters are going to be your relationships. The early majority are going to be people you work with and you'll keep in touch. There'll be contacts, right? In sales or CRM, we call them contacts. But these strategic relationships, these people are your innovators and your early adopters. These are the ones who are excited that you're contacting them. They're excited to work with you, excited to see how you can team together. They're excited to see what you can do for their agency. If you do artificial intelligence, for example, they're excited for you to come in and do a proof of concept, or even to just talk about how they can think strategically about integrating emerging technologies or whatever it is you sell in there. Those strategic relationships of innovators and early adopters will lead to the opportunities that are slam dunk for you. The more non-innovator, non-early adopter, non-golden relationships you have, what you'll find is an opportunity pipeline that begins to get too far away from what you sell. So having those right people means you're going to have the right relationships, which will allow you to identify the right opportunities, leading to winning proposals and sales that'll come in through your efforts. But it all begins right here in outreach when you're identifying those 5 types of people, right? And just coming up so you can see it: innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. Do not complain about the late majority and laggards. Sometimes you are a late majority or laggard. Somebody is trying to sell to your company like my services or payroll services or something else. You go, I don't want to talk. That's fine. That's just where you're at. I'm a laggard on certain things. It's not bad to be a laggard, and it's not great to be an innovator. It's just great to find the innovators so you can work with them. Okay, so let me wrap up here, and just some things I want you to remember as we move forward, right? Start with that targeting. Build a list of 200 people. You want that list to have enough people that you can reach out to and find the 2.5% or the 13.5% that make up those golden innovators and early adopters. The second thing I want you to remember is to reach that 16%. Call enough people. Keep adding to your target list until you reach those 16%. That's 16 people. I'm telling you, those people exist. I have literally called somebody. They're like, oh, I was just waiting to talk to you. I'm buying. I'm like, okay, great. And there's other people I talk to where they're, it's not a fit. I'm like, that's perfect. That is sales. You are in sales. You need to find the people who are ready to work with you now or to talk with you now. Last thing I want you to remember, and this is a personality thing and a sales thing. Just remember, when you call people and you want them to do something, some people will, some won't. So what? So what doesn't mean, it's not a mean thing. It just means don't fixate on the ones who won't. Fixate on the ones who will. If you got value, do me a favor, throw thanks into the chat for the team, because they help us get all this stuff done and follow up all the time. If you're getting value from all this training that we do and you'd like to see it continue, please consider becoming a sustaining member. And then if you're interested in working with me and accelerating forward, we're going to be talking about this next week, but we're going to grab one small group of people, and then that'll be the rest we work for the end of 2023 into 2024. So just reach out to me if you're interested. Otherwise, definitely follow back up on training, because we do training every single day to teach what we know for free. For all of us, remember, government contracting, it's not a secret. It's just a process. I'll see you in the next training.